I nominate you, Joe. Sorry for chair.
Thank you, Kathy.
Seconded.
There's a second, seconded by Amy. All those in favor?
Aye.
Very good. Thank you, guys. I appreciate that. And next, are there any nominations for
Well,
the
because
office?
Joe De Silva isn't here, I think he should be vice chair also.
Is there a second?
I second it.
Seconded by Amy. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right.
That'll
Good.
teach him to be absent.
Yep.
Well, he's got a $50 fine now for
Yeah, right.
so
as board chair, I have a great group of people to work with. Thank you all.
Oh, Mr. Ayadarola, look at you in your office.
All right, so please rise for the pledge.
Okay. I pledge allegiance
Allegiance.
To the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. We have Glenn. I think everybody knows you, but Glenn is with Fry Architect. He's doing a design for us. He's worked with the district for a long time. And we have a few things. I know that Antonio has a 7 o'clock meeting as well. So if we can get started right away on the first project we want to talk about, Joe, if it's okay, is Osborne.
By the way, it's been a while since we spoke, and I'm glad we pulled together because there's a lot that's been going on, and this is a good segue into, kind of bring you guys up to speed on where we are. But in addition to that, there's going to be a considerable amount of work that we are going to try to accomplish with Sal and his staff pertaining to putting together educational specifications for one of the new schools that we're looking at pulling together, which is the Danbury Career Academy. And it's I just think with this COVID, we used to get together at least every 6 months, or if not sooner, but we haven't really done that. So I want to be able to just bring you up to speed real quick. I know that Glenn has a couple of presentation slides that he's going to share with you. But what I wanted to do, and I'm hoping everybody's there because everybody went blank. Is everybody there?
Yes.
Okay, good. Thank you. The whole screen went blank. We wanted to talk about Osborne. As you know, this was one of the primary focus for us that came out of much studying the enrollment projections, predominantly the K-5 projections. And one of the things that we came up with and we moved and secured the funds for was the Ellsworth Avenue Annex, which has now really been called the Ellsworth Avenue Addition. That's what the state would like us to call it. So just to give you some very quick history, the actual Ellsworth Avenue School was designed for 380 students. Believe it or not, we found a very convenient way to put 522 kids in that school. Amazing. Amazing how we're able to educate them in that tight of a space, but the kids are there. And the population on a K-5 for Ellsworth Avenue is going to be pushing into 634 in the year 24-25. So that is the reason why we are putting a good size addition onto Ellsworth, and we're doing a project that we're going to be speaking to you about tonight. So very quickly, we are looking at adding a total of 3 pre-K classrooms and 4 kindergarten classrooms. In addition to that, we are going to provide a substantial amount of space for the Ellsworth School administrative staff, which has really been sort of relocated or pushed into other offices because a lot of their spaces is actually being used for educational needs right now. So that is sort of a very broad highlight of what this project is about. The project,
Antonio, that's going to be the registration center too, right?
yes, a small piece of this project will be the actual registration center for the district, and that is actually been defined as a separate project with the state grants folks, but it is one project for us. So yes, Sal, that's important to bring up, and Glenn will actually show that piece of the of that project in a few minutes. So just to speak in round numbers, the project is around $11 million for the school piece and about $500,000 for the Board of Education registration. Overall, the project is anticipated to be about $11.5 million. And that does include some very uncertain bidding environment that we're starting to see because of COVID issues. So it is a conservative number. We hope that the number is going to be much better at bid time. But right now, not everybody, not a lot of people have bid out work, and we don't know where the square foot numbers are going to land. So we have taken a conservative approach to estimate this job, and that's what you're seeing is an $11.5 million project. Very quickly, I'm going to talk about schedule, and then we're going to get Glenn to show us some of his work. So schedule-wise, we have been working on this project for the last 6 months, going and going and going. We've been meeting with the staff at Ellsworth Avenue School. We've been meeting with Sal's group. We worked hard and worked together in putting educational specs. That was part of our original application, which the entire Board of Education blessed. I'm going back now, Dan, was it 6 months ago, probably?
Yeah, June.
Yeah. It may seem that we haven't gotten together, but we've been plugging along on this project. The beauty of it is if everything goes well and the state continues to be able to communicate and meet with us via Zoom, we hope to actually have our final state review by March 2nd, which is right around the corner. So what we're going to do is in the next week or so, we're going to finalize our plans. We're going to meet with the school building committee next week, and then we're going to come in front of the entire board to have you bless the final estimate and the final plans and specifications. They're not going to change at all based on what you are seeing tonight. This is actually a good preamp for you folks to see some of that work that we're going to be discussing in about a week. So our bid date is around April, probably mid-April, and we hope to immediately go out into construction with a contract to be issued in June. And our goal is to be fully ready for occupancy August of 2022. So it is a very fast moving project. And we should be able to hit those timelines pretty well. We have a great record of always meeting our budgets and meeting our deadlines. The unknown here is the COVID issue, which we just haven't seen what the impact of that can be. But we're ready to work through it, knowing that there may be some mitigating issues that we'll have to deal with. So, Glenn, do you want to do a presentation of what this edition looks like?
Sure. Okay, thank you, Kevin. So to start off with, we have the two plans. The lower level plan, lower on the sheet, is your first floor. Just to orient you, Osborne Street is to the left. and the existing school is to the right. The upper level, as Antonio has said, we have the administrative offices, and the hatched area is the areas that are designated for the Board of Ed, the registration, testing, and so forth for the second floor. So there is an elevator that will bring you up, and there's 2 brand new stairs that make the second floor code compliant. We'll have enough bathrooms up there for staff. There's also a conference room, a break room, and then we have mechanical and some storage space along with the offices for the individual staff. If we can go downstairs real quick. Here we have our classrooms. The 3 pre-K are along the bottom edge of there, and the 4 kindergarten are along the top. Each classroom will have the cubbies for the students. They will have individual toilet rooms, and the pre-K will have 2 toilets to meet that code requirement. We have again the elevator, and if you can go down scan down a little bit towards the entry, you'll see this is the new entry to this area. Comes off of that parking lot that's already there into a secure area, and you will have to be buzzed in by the security staff that'll be in that office. Once you're in that corridor, you can go down to the elevator and go upstairs, or you can go down that corridor into the individual classrooms. The doors to get you into that classroom will be on access control, so there's limited access for other people that are coming in to go upstairs. The corridor that goes to the right will lead you back to the main school, and it's connecting right in the cafeteria. That's an existing door opening that's in the cafeteria. So the way it works right now is the students that may be in that cafeteria may be dismissed through those doors to the playground, or it's just an emergency egress unit. But in this case, you're going to come through that cafeteria, down the corridor, and into the annex, if you will, or you can go directly out into the new playscape area. There's no real changes inside the existing Ellsworth, physical wall changes at all. So we're just making the connections for our utilities and services, technology, those kinds of things, so we can tie everything together to the existing school. If we go to the next slide.
Glenn, if I could just let everybody know that this, what is a separate building now, will actually function as really one school. What I mean by that is the fire alarm system will all be integrated, the telephone system, the communication system will all be integrated. So it is really an addition, but it's going to function as a completely comprehensive and cohesive school. That's very important. It was very important for the staff to secure that need.
Yep. Yep. The next slide. This is a kind of a representative of what we're looking at. So you can see that from the parking area, Osborne Street is to your back as you're looking at this. We have got new windows going into the classrooms, new windows upstairs into the office areas, and you can see the point of entrance to the building. I think we have one more slide also. Yes, so from existing Ellsworth is to your right, Osborne Street is to your left, and you can see how the connecting corridor leads into that central entrance, and then the existing Osborne Street building in the background there. So the site is in a couple pieces here. So what we're looking at right now is, again, Osborne Street to the bottom side of the sheet. You're coming into that parking lot. The building for the new classrooms is there on your left. And what's important here is that we're only taking away a few parking spaces in this parking lot, enough to put our new connecting corridor there. So most of the parking spaces will remain, and then there's the area right now that is behind the existing building, between that and the existing gym of the school, will then become our play area, or at least one of the play areas. And I've got another slide which we'll get to a little bit more to detail that, but just to explain a little bit more, if we can move the slide the other way up. There you go. So you can see the edge of that existing parking lot, bus loop, and there's an existing playscape there, which I'm sure everybody's familiar with. Those are going to remain, and we're going to add a new bituminous play area because the grass area has been so difficult to make usable. So it's going to be a bituminous area, and again, there's going to be a half basketball court in there and so forth, and I'll show that to you in a second as well. If we can go to the other half of the site now. So you're going to see some additional parking spots along the left side of this drawing, and those will be additional parking spots for staff associated with this with the school.
And Glenn, I think we got 22 new spots, so we really were able to. We didn't think we're going to be able to get that many, but we're able to get 22, which is really nice.
So the parking that's on both sides should give plenty of parking between the school and registration, and will allow for some separation between those two functions. And then the next site plan. This is a blow up of the play area to give you a little bit more detail. Again, you can see the existing playground, which has the existing playscape there and the existing swing sets. Those are going to remain, and we're going to add the bituminous area with some 4 square play areas, hopscotch, the half-court basketball, and something that's fairly popular, a painting of the United States that is used in a lot of places. And then between the two buildings, we have the playscape, which is going to be age appropriate for what we're doing. We'll have a playscape there, a swing, a couple other apparatus. It'll all be on a cushioned rubberized surface for safety. Each piece will have, there's a safety zone that's required. So you can't just cram a lot of items into that because you have to maintain a safety zone. So we've done that, and there'll be some benches and so forth in there. It should be really kind of nice for the students.
And Glenn, that area predominantly is designed, and the equipment is designed for a pre-K age group, right?
That's correct.
Yeah, and it's nicely fitted in an area where it's protected. It's a nice isolated area, and you can allow those children to play there without really getting bumped or roughhoused by a little older children, which will be predominantly to your left.
So all of the play apparatus is something that will get submitted to the state in another phase of the project. But we're, coordinating the larger images of concepts of what we're doing so the state knows now. We'll be back with a more detailed apparatus plan in the future. So that's real quickly a view of what we're doing. We've been working, as Antonio said, several months. We've had my team as well as my consultants out to, verify all the existing conditions. We've been through the existing school to look at utilities and how we're bringing things across. So as Antonio said, we're looking forward to an approval in March and getting this out to bid soon after that then.
Thank you. Sal, before I move on, do you have any, you want to see if anybody has any questions?
Ask the board, Joe, what do you think?
Yeah, the only question I had is the reimbursement still all good to go on that project?
Yes, the reimbursement, and that's the reason why we have all of these crazy meetings with the state is because we don't want to jeopardize that reimbursement. Yep. So we are scheduled to meet our reimbursement with very negligible, minimal, ineligible cost. Every project has a little bit of ineligible cost, but ours are very, very minimal. One of the things I do want to bring up to you is the Board of Education space that will be used by the district on a district-wide basis. The reimbursement rate for that is 50% of what our full rate is. So we get just over 60%. So that is also eligible, but at a much lesser amount. But that's the way those projects are handled across the state of Connecticut.
Okay, great. Anybody else have any questions? Anybody else? Amy, go ahead.
So what is the Board of Education space in the top of that building?
It's the registration piece of your district-wide Board of Education, and it covers testing of brand new students coming in, determine placement and things like that. So it's sort of like your intake area for the entire district.
Okay, great, thank you.
Al, you had your hand up too, I think.
Yes, I had a question about, there was a mention of a bituminous play area, which leads me to believe asphalt. Did I understand correctly?
That's correct. Yeah.
Asphalt versus pulverized rubber or AstroTurf?
Well, part of the area is the rubberized surfacing, but the state does not reimburse for synthetic turf. Okay, so putting the rubberized surface is something that we limit how much, and it works better for certain games, basketball and so forth, to have the hard surface. We're going to colorize it so that it's doesn't look like a parking lot, but we find that holds up the best.
I was more concerned with young child safety on an asphalt surface.
Yeah.
Right now, that area has been producing glass and other things, and it has been a problem. It's either got to be either or. We can't leave it with grass. So whatever you guys come up with. So I just wanted to put that out there.
All right, thank you.
Anyone else? If not, Dr. Sal, we could go on to the next one.
Okay, Antonio, go.
Okay, let me just put this stuff away real quick. I guess why don't we talk a little bit about the Danbury Career Academy? So the Danbury Career Academy, again, another very unique project. This project is another project that has really blossomed out of a lot of the work that we did about a year ago when we were having very detailed discussions regarding our projections for peak enrollment in not only the middle school, but also the high school, and also how to deal with some of the overcrowding that exists at the high school. So an opportunity presented itself, and it's a very unique project to do a 6 to 12 school, which will be a career academy at the Summit, which is, I guess it's the old Matrix, which is the old, what was it, Union Carbide, I think, right? Is that what it was? The old Union Carbide building. So there is an opportunity to take a total of 3 pods, which are very much isolated from the balance of that building, and turn it into a school. There is also going to be a very good size addition, 25,000 square foot addition, which is a good size addition, that will house a gym. It will house, which will be a multi-purpose assembly area, and also a entryway, if you will, to the 6 to 12 school that we're building there. So that project, we've been very lucky to secure some special legislation, and the special legislation has allowed this unique school to be constructed in a commercial setting, which is what lends it to be a career academy, because there are numerous opportunities for children to also engage with numerous businesses and diverse businesses that exist in this 1.4 million square foot of building there. So the project, special legislation was approved for a total of $93 million, and we have a beautiful 80% reimbursement rate, which our legislative folks worked really hard to secure for us, and we're incredibly thankful for them to do that. So this project here is in the very beginning. It is really, we just started to have conversations with the state regarding how to move ahead with this project, because a project like this has really never been done before in the state of Connecticut. And the school grants folks are working with us to actually develop a pilot program and some guidelines on possibly how other communities could do projects like this. So we're kind of the first to do a project of this magnitude. And although there's been an interest by other communities, we are going to be the first ones to do it. So we anticipate having weekly meetings starting next week with state officials to start formulating that plan and to start gelling this project up. We are also initiating with the Board of Education and all the fine folks that we always work with on the Board of Ed to start putting together educational specifications, which really would guide us on what this school looks like, what it should have in it. So that educational spec will guide us in the overall design of the spaces and how the school comes together. So we are working with Sal's staff to do that, and we're going to probably be starting that work in the next month or so. What else can I tell you about the school? What I like to tell you is that the school is intended to accommodate about 330 6th to 8th graders. That's sort of where our initial numbers lay right now, and those are directly coming from the enrollment projections that we received about a year ago that initiated all of these discussions. In addition to that, we are looking at the high school piece to accommodate about 1,000 children. So although the enrollment peaking for the high school is about an additional 400 students, we hope to maybe take some of the existing population that's in the high school right now and kind of bring it here to alleviate a little bit of the overcrowding that we have in the existing high school right now. So those numbers can change a little bit based on what the educational specs will tell us to work with. But overall, we're looking at about 1,300 to 1,400 total student population to work in these 3 pods that we spoke about. The other thing that I like to tell you is the pods are very well isolated and will be isolated from any other entry from the rest of the building. But by design, and one of the benefits is our children can utilize some of the assembly areas and other opportunities that the Summit building has based on how much the Board of Education would like to have that interaction. So there's some great spaces there. There's performing arts areas, and all of that is available to them through a scheduling scenario to utilize that. So it's a great, great opportunity. So this project, we have to get an application in to the school grants folks by September of 2021. So it's right around the corner. The city's already initiated discussions on how to formulate some paperwork and get everybody on the consensus to do a bond, which would be able to support the application going in on September 2021. So what does that mean? That means that we have to demonstrate to the state when we submit our application that the voters are granting us the opportunity to spend $93 million to build this school. And that's really what the whole referendum is for. We don't go out and borrow that money all at once. We borrow it in small pieces unless the money is so perfectly priced that taking the loan out and minimizing the risk of the loan in the future is an attractive option, which our finance director has really capitalized on that on several other projects, including a sewage treatment plant right now, which we're able to borrow money so incredibly cheap. I wish I could borrow it to refinance my house. But the occupancy anticipation is for August of 2024. That fits in very, very well with the enrollment peaking that occurs not only in the high school, but also that occurs in the middle school. The middle school peaking is a little farther down the road, but having this school ready so we could introduce students and slowly migrate them into this new facility, something that Sal is very interested in doing that. Again, if everything goes well, we might have an earlier occupancy opportunity, but right now with COVID and everything that's going on, we feel comfortable with the August 24th, 2024, because it also fits in well with our peaking and projected enrollment. So everything seems to be working really well. And that's all I have. I don't know if there's any additional questions. I can get a little more into detail regarding the existing building, but right now it's such a schematic and preliminary planning project that I don't have much to share with you.
I just one of the issues and challenges I think the board wants to be mindful of is that there is a firewall mentality between
Yes.
the main operation and the school. I think so. You know, in the design, that's something we kept coming over and over. So that's important to reimburse.
Sal, that's a very good point to bring up. Yes, there's not only a total isolation, and what Sal is describing, these fire separations, which are very critical and a requirement of our code. But we are going to put in, and there's plenty of stairwells, we're going to put in an additional stairwell in the core of the building just to facilitate additional opportunities during an emergency for children to get out of this building safely. Again, we got to be careful that we don't overbuild. A stairwell could be considered an overbuild scenario and we don't get reimbursement. But right now we have planned for a very large center core stairwell, which will also facilitate another elevator, and that will drop right down into the core entry point that we described, which will be a complete safety checkpoint for everything. As you know, parking is also going to be dedicated parking for this school. So there'll be dedicated parking for students and for teachers. And that is part of the agreement that the developer has offered to give us. So there'll be plenty of parking directly and covered parking directly accessible for this building.
The other thing, I know before Mark left, and one of the things we talked about, because you just mentioned it, and I'm sure the board's thinking, the $93 million is not what we're spending, but that has to be the referendum on approval. That's not actually tax dollars. That's not the tax dollars from Danbury. Is that correct?
Well, it's the price tag is $93 million. That includes everything from design, but 80% of that, and very close to 80%, is going to be the reimbursement. So, you know, we're only paying for 20% of this building, which is incredible.
Right. I think that was the point, that you just can't put the 20%. You have to put the whole enchilada on the ballot. And but it's going to cost $20 million. But I just wanted the board to realize that that's why it's got to be portrayed that way.
Perfect. Perfect.
Thank you, Gladys. Just a couple of things, and I know it's still preliminary, and we need to kind of circle back on some of the ideas that we've been brewing and cooking up in the background when it comes to sort of the 612 piece. We started to talk more along the lines of maybe the middle school component being slightly larger than we originally discussed, because of just the economy of scale that is not really there when you only take a few kids out of the middle school, right? So you still have to have this middle school staffing set up, you know, whether you have 330 or 500, right? So how do we hit that sweet spot so that it's economically more viable than to kind of overstaff for a smaller number of kids? So that was sort of one piece, and also pulling enough kids out of the middle school to make a nice dent in that. You know, the having 1,000 kids on the high school side is a lot. It's actually a lot more than we actually need. And so how can we kind of rebalance the numbers a little bit? So we've been having some conversations, which of course would affect how we would design the separate learning spaces between middle school and high school. And so, you know, before we kind of go down that road of, you know, the architectural plans and finalizing those things, I definitely want to make sure that we swoop back around to kind of have those discussions. The other thing that is kind of, you know, I talked to Dr. Sal a little bit about this, about the identity of the school itself and the campus, and that this is not going to be a high school, but it'll have a middle school component, and that currently in those plans, even though we don't have, even though I heard you say that we have opportunities to book space in the matrix or rent space for functions, I'm a little concerned that we don't have in those plans, you know, in thinking through them, a place that is, you know, for that school, for that campus. So whether it be an auditorium, whether it be a grander multi-purpose room of some kind where kids can come and meet, where schools can meet, and for assemblies, to have discussions with folks coming in for careers. And so right now it's a lot of classrooms and a gymnasium and a small kitchen. And so, you know, if it's not too far down the road, how do we think kind of, you know, a little bit differently about the reorganization of space, if possible? I'm just putting it out there while we still have time to make changes and to be thinking through it. Because, you know, down the road, as they continue to sell off space at the Summit site, things that were initially available to us now because of the large, vast availability may suddenly become unavailable. And that leaves us with a 1,300 or 1,400 seat school without a place to meet and to gather the student body, which is really part of the identity and the culture of the school. So just something to think about.
Kara, I think when we come up with the ed specs, you know, there is a large gymnasium that can be a gym auditorium. I think the specs will have to help us. Also, if we need experiment rooms where you can bring, rooms together. I think that all would have to be built into the spec. That's what I think Antonia was referring to, so that it could be a comprehensive plan. So meeting areas, experiment areas, things of that nature would be in that specs. And that's why it's important that we develop them.
And I just want to say this, we're right in the beginning, and the worst part of my job is if I say nothing, then I'm a bad guy. If I say too much, I'm also a bad guy. So what does that mean? What that means is we want to put something out there to get people to think, to get you folks to think. The enrollment projections, some of the previous discussions we had with the high school regarding population, that's what I just presented. The discussions that Kira's bringing up are good discussions. They need to be had. And honestly, Sal, you'll have to orchestrate how many students you want there. There is an opportunity for 1,400 students, whether we increase the number of middle school kids there and we lessen the high school, that's up for you folks to sort of kind of figure out, but the opportunity's there. The other thing I want to mention to you is one of the benefits of going to this facility is I think there's a 1,000-seat auditorium that's available for you folks to gather. That's not a space that's getting used every day. So that is one of the benefits. There is a restaurant class, high production kitchen. Should you guys want to have some big events or gatherings. So there's a lot of opportunity to be associated with the summit that's there. One of the things we got to be careful with is our space. We got to meet the space requirements. So we have to be very conscientious of the fact that if we build more space than the state is willing to reimburse us on, we have to pay for that space. We also recognize that because this is a career academy, there's going to be some specialized educational spaces that are going to eat up a lot of square footage, which typically doesn't fit into their formula. So we have to just balance all of that. But these are all great discussions that we'll have down the road. And that's why I think it's important as we start to talk with the state about how to formulate the process of building a school there. We also start talking to you guys about an ed spec and some of these issues that Kara has brought up. So that's that. But it will have to happen pretty quick because, as I mentioned to you, September 2021 is right around the corner.
Is the I just had a question. Is the that gigantic lease that Nuvance Health signed a couple months ago, is that going to have any impact on this project or?
Nope.
Nothing?
No, nothing. No.
Well, in a good way, potentially, not from the architecture or the plans standpoint, but we did reach out to someone in Nuvance to start the discussion about potential relationship with the academy. So we're very interested in finding out what exactly is going there. Are they corporate offices or is it actually going to be a healthcare facility? And if so, would that be a better place to move a health and bioscience academy as we try to grow that out, right? It's like to make sure that the placement and the locations are strategic and that could lend itself. So not from a building standpoint, but just from a relationship, a collaborative relationship. So I did get someone to reach back out to me who's in charge of the move over there, and he's forwarded my information to the person who works in that area. So I'm excited to hear what they have to say.
Exciting. That's very good.
We got a great working relationship with them too. So if you do need some help getting to a good contact person, let us know. But they're totally into that type of stuff. They would enjoy partnering with you guys. Yeah.
Well, that was one of the purposes of being there, to permit our youngsters without traveling to have opportunities to mentor and to observe, and that's one of the powerful pieces of this. So that's great. But the ed specs, Kara, we'll have to work on. I know we're working on the conceptual design for the educational outcomes, and then the structure inside of it is what we're going to have to come up with in terms of the building space. The number, I think, is it's a secondary school. How it flips back and forth will be somewhat flexible, and I think the board would be really interested, because as we look at middle school, I think when we saw this, to do it economically, we have to have certain numbers. Otherwise, it's very expensive, and it doesn't really make a dent into the middle school. So that's the exciting part of it, doing all of this. It'll be a first.
Antonio?
Yes, sir.
I realize we're at the infancy of this project, but you know my background. And concerns I had up at the Clapper Ridge High School were cell phone communications inside the building and public safety radio penetrating the building. Have you already had something in your design plan for bidirectional amplifiers? So either the in-school radio system or public fire, police and fire and public safety will be able to communicate on all the floors?
Yeah, and one of the things that I just learned about this the other evening, Al, is there just was a donation made for $160,000 for an antenna and a communication enhancement that was done by the developer, and it was just approved at the Common Council the other night. So as you know, the West Side's had a historic poor communication. The communication equipment in that area is very, very tough, not only for fire, police, and even public works. But yeah, that there is a donation that was just granted, which will help with the entire city's communication system for police and fire. And the other thing I want to mention is we also just signed a lease, which is a no-cost lease for the police department to have a substation only a couple of feet away from the main entrance of where this school will ultimately have its main entrance. So it is a really unique situation. And when people talk about a city within a city, that's really what this is starting to gel up like. So it's a wonderful concept.
And Antonio and Al, I just wanted to add that we did just increase frequencies that we purchased. So the number of, individual frequencies with our radios, we just recently increased. So that'll help when we get to the Career Academy, so that multiple schools aren't sharing the same frequency on their radios. And we also have that grant, Antonio, that we're working through with the organization that will eventually roll out to the Academy as well, to link into the police department and all of the other Danbury radio,
right.
So that will also be another enhancement as we roll out the Academy a few years from now.
Wonderful.
So I know while the board's taking their mind questions, we're going to start. I know, as I said, Kara's working on we all know we went and visited in Nashville and the career pathways, but that and the portrait of a graduate, all of that is kind of a kaleidoscope coming together, and the Pathway Academy is part of that. And we're going to have to come with the ed specs and start talking to the board about who gets in, how do you get in, and all of that, right? That's really going to be important for you guys, that it's opened up. So we'll be coming to board with presentations for that. When do you think, in terms of a target time, I think would you like a proposal for those draft ed specs, Antonio?
Well, Sal, I would say the earlier you can get them to us, but we're going to need at least a month to vet them out with you. So, I would say August, the latest for a draft copy. Yeah.
I think the board will start working on it now, actually, because that we do it. The board knows when we open.
Get us involved as much as you like to. I mean, it worked out really well when we did Ellsworth. I know it was it was a lot of work, and we did work a couple nights deep into the night. But let us know when you have some preliminary thoughts together, and we'll gladly jump in with you.
Okay. I just want the board to hear this. I know there's another project down the road. Can you just tell the board, because that was.
Sure, yeah, I'm getting short on time, so I got another Zoom call I can get on.
I think they should hear that.
Sure. So down the road, one of the other challenges that we found out that we have in Danbury is with the pre-K population. Right. And one of the things that we looked at and came out of the work that we did about a year ago was to possibly consolidate all of the early childhood activities in classrooms that are needed throughout the district into an early childhood center. And we actually looked at, was it a Great Plain, right?
Yeah,
Great Plain. Yep, Great Plain provided a great opportunity to do what would be an early childhood center. We looked at 16 pre-K classrooms for that location, which will allow some potential growth too as we move into the future. And again, this would not be for at least another 5 or 6 years. The beauty of doing that early childhood center is that it would allow the Board of Education to get away from the 2 leases that they currently are in. So the lease avoidance would be mitigated by the construction of this early childhood center. And we just started to have preliminary conversations with the state on the need for this. We figured the earlier we start talking to them, the better it is. And there's no other school district that's doing more building construction than us. So we like to just let them know what our needs are as advanced as we can. So 60 pre-K classrooms could easily cost us about $17 million. Again, that doesn't include escalation. But it is a very, very early planning budget that we have to work through as we proceed through some of the existing projects that we have. So again, that's a very preliminary look at doing a lease avoidance project that would help the district long-term with some of their budgets, and also consolidating this pre-K program and having all the resources in one school.
Antonio, question on that. Would that be in addition to Great Plain? That'd be adding 16 classrooms to the building?
Yes, it would be in addition. And as you know, pre-K classrooms really all need to be sort of on a ground floor. And that's what we did. We've laid out, and we know they fit. The other beauty of it is I also took that school a couple years and got it off the septic system and actually tied it into a sewer system. So that does allow us to be able to really enhance the building opportunities at that school.
Okay, thanks.
Antonio, I realize it's early for that 17 mil, but do you have a projected build date on that?
Yeah, so the build date, I actually have an occupancy date, Al, of like 2025 or possibly 2026. That's when we're looking at possibly occupying that building in order to avoid you guys having to sign additional leases. And also at that point, I think your population will be at the point where you could definitely utilize a centralized early childhood center.
Thank you.
Sure.
A lot of work.
A lot of money.
Yeah, well, yeah, you know, kids are worth it. Yeah.
Sal, I think the mayor's going to want to have you pay for my salary and Dan's salary, since we're going to be basically working for you guys for the next 5 years.
Oh,
I know, look at you, you got all upset.
that's okay.
Just put it on our tab.
Worth every dime.
Listen, I enjoy working with you guys. Honestly, building schools is something that I really love doing. And you guys have allowed us to do some really creative projects, and we love that. And we have an incredible respect with the school grants folks. They really like what we do down here. And we're probably one of the only school districts that when we say we're going to build something, we not only build it, but it's done. It's finished, and we go right through the audits. So that is a really nice partnership that we've built, and thank you for that.
And that's a testament to you.
It's really a relationship that we built early on. You guys have trusted us to do this for you, and it's worked out really well.
I don't know anyone that enjoys looking at a project and can actually visualize how it's going to come out of the earth and look like it's supposed to. So kudos to you.
Thank you. Thank you.
And Dan, I know, I got to thank Dan. He's back there. He does a lot of the day-by-day work. So, Mr. Britton, next thing, I know he's got to go, but any questions for Antonio or?
I'm good. Does anybody else have any? Amy, Kathy, you good? Okay, yeah, we can keep pushing on, Dr. Sal.
And Mr. Chairman, anytime you want us to update you, just let us know. We'll gladly kind of give you an update. I think you kind of know what we're doing for the next 6 months. But if you, and you'll probably see us at the Board of Education meeting next week too, but anytime you want to have your members get filled in with some of the specifics, let us know.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Antonio, for that.
Thank you, Antonio. Thank you, Glenn.
Yeah, thank you, Glenn.
So for the board, Granville, let me update you on Granville. Go ahead, Kel.
Sure. So Granville, we are currently occupying 6 of the classrooms as well as several office spaces. That's the top floor. So all 6 classrooms are set up for students. They're receiving AM and PM kids. The bottom floor is still on its way to being completed. We expect it to be done, I don't know, about a month, I'm going to say. I'm not a construction person, but it looks like we've got a little bit of a ways to go. But I can't say enough. Rich Dauber and his team were just amazing. I mean, we got the CO and clearance, the mayor, on a Tuesday afternoon, and by Friday, classrooms were set up and the kids came in on Monday. So, I mean, it was an extremely quick turnaround. It feels like a preschool. You walk in, there's splashes of color on the wall. They did some of those like stickers that have animals and trees and fun things like that. The kids are loving it. They've adjusted really, really well. The first day or 2 in, it was a little bit challenging. These students hadn't been into school in a while, and they were then being dropped off at a building that they didn't know. But once they saw their teachers and they moved their way in, they were thrilled. I also, we're excited to occupy the bottom floor because then we'll be able to bring over a majority of our preschool classrooms. There's 10 classroom spaces in total. We have 11 preschools currently, preschool classrooms. So we just exceed the size of the building. I do know at one point there was a conversation about whether or not there could be additional spaces maximized on the back end of that building. So that's something we should definitely still explore. But it certainly meets our current needs right now to have a majority of our classes there. We will remain 1 classroom at Sacred Heart for next school year. And we're also looking at creative ways from a preschool perspective of doing some of our services in the community, which may eliminate the need for that 11th classroom full-time, in one of our facility spaces. So certainly what we've noticed already is you are maximizing the amount of service time that's being provided in one location. So our PTs, our OTs, our speech and language pathologists are not traveling all over the building, just naturally being together in one site as opposed to 3. There's more teaming and collaboration. Right now, those providers are in temporary spaces, office spaces, and are doing push and support into the classroom. But overall, I can't say enough good things. Teachers are happy, they're thrilled, they've kind of rolled with it. We've hit a few little bumps in the road, but overall, it's been really a very positive thing for the city to finally have a pre-K center. So thank you.
Do you know when you're going to occupy the other section? I didn't.
Rich put a little note in here. He said he'd be able to turn over the bottom floor by the end of February.
Oh, okay, okay. So for the board, maybe either Rich or Courtney can update them. When we displace Osborne, and what do we have for people to occupy? You want to update the board a little bit, please?
Sure. So Kelly worked with Marie, that's our partner over at Sacred Heart, to ensure that we have space for Anne's team at Sacred Heart. So we're leveraging that existing lease and our partnership there for the next year for all of Anne's staff in the reservation group. And Rich worked with our partner Bell Coffee to find a space at a reasonable price just up the road from Beaverbrook. And they've gone ahead and renovated some office space for his staff, as well as a significant amount of storage space that's needed for all the equipment that's been crammed in. If you've ever been into the upper stories over at Osborne, you'll know what I mean, that we're in dire need of space. Do you want to just talk a little bit? Have you been over, Rich, recently and seen the renovations? I think it's pretty close to being ready to move in.
I took a peek over there last week, and there are some concrete floors that he's put carpeting in on the offices. The existing carpeting he had professionally cleaned. We're still waiting for the warehouse space to be vacated so we can start using that, but I expect we should be able to move in, at least office space wise, in the next month or so over there.
Yeah, so that was great. So that was just for a year, because as you know from what Antonio just talked about, the Osborne replacement, which is the Ellsworth Annex, is on track to be on time for their anticipated construction timeframe as we stand today.
And
on time is very good news. Those are good.
We had a little bit of more advance notice than poor Bob, who, operating during COVID and whatnot. So, yeah.
And you're going to occupy the Sacred Heart when, right?
Yes. We're going to move center registration, ELP, and one person from Sodexo will move over to the Cottage Street location. Kelly will keep a classroom. I have 3 classrooms downstairs. We'll take the other 2 classrooms and either somehow divide them up and put in temporary stations in there for our registration folks and our ELP folks. And then I'd love to still have 1 classroom for the learning tree. So that will absolutely work for the next year, plus while we're out of Osborne Street.
Once Granville is available, we will work with Rich and his team to transition those kids over sometime in springtime this year. We're hoping to have that done on or about April vacation.
Great.
So, okay, and move to say, getting furniture and all that stuff is what we're moving around. But I think one of the things the board has asked for, which is going to work into, is this 3-year budget, because we have to plan with the end in mind, occupying the summit, occupying even the early childhood center, in terms of what we have to do as we go. One of the things the board we did when we opened STEM, you remember we brought Frank on, Dr. LeBlanc on board. So you may have to do that with the summit, bring someone on board earlier, things of that nature to get things going. So this 3-year rollout gives us at least some target, and at least it'll let the city know what we're thinking. What worked for us at STEM, at the new place at Westside Academy, was that we phased in. So that's what he was hinting towards. That's something that could work for us. We'll put that in the 3-year budget. But I think, we have the space. We've been fortunate to have the city support these new buildings for us. It's really going to accommodate our needs for quite a while. So I don't know if there's anything else, Joe. Update you quick on Rogers Park. We had customized front doors this morning that were done by a car inadvertently. And I think, Rich, you want to tell the board what we're doing so they know with that?
Sure. The good news is those entry doors were in the works of being replaced anyways. We had plans to replace it. So I think it's just expediting the replacement of those front doors. I had Public Buildings go over there. They shored up the doors until they can get them replaced. The left 2 out of the 3 are unusable at this point, but luckily, egress wise, most of the stairwell exits are being used for the students. There's only about 14 or 15 staff that are using that front entrance door. We also had a broken window on one of the food trucks, and they siphoned up some gas on 2 of the food trucks. So school lunch has brought those trucks to get looked at and make sure they didn't put anything in the gas tank that would damage the vehicles.
Hey, Rich, why don't you tell them to put the lock caps on that? Now I'm thinking about it.
I just made that recommendation to them today.
Oh, okay, good. There you go.
And Sal, we did get those quotes for the extra cameras that you asked for, even though it was in the back and the front at Rogers Park. So
good.
Yeah.
And the board knows they did apprehend the person. There was no threat against the school. He's just angry at something domestically, and just went on a spree, according to Chief Rittenhauser.
Question. So I'm sorry, Kathy, go ahead.
Sorry. Will insurance pay for that damage now?
Well, I think there's an ordinance down. They're going to go after the person that damaged it, but we won't have to wait for that. The city will have to replace it. I'm sure they'll try to bill us, right, Rich?
That's true. It's the city
Yeah, but they do go after for insurance everything they can. So if it is, we'll work with them. They did get us that reimbursement for that big sprinkler break 2 years later, right, Rich? But
exactly. Just that main entrance door, because it's the door in the door frame, you're talking probably about $20,000 just for that one main entrance.
Rich, just to make sure I understand it. So we're using the stairwells on the ends to come for most of the students to come in and out of anyway. So most of them aren't even using that door, right?
Correct. As part of the plan to open up during the pandemic, we wanted to use as many entrances as possible.
Ironically, when I went there, which
we lost you, Joe.
Yeah, Joe, you cut out there.
We lost him.
Joe, I can't picture Joe speechless.
Sorry, no, thank you, Rich. When I had gone there, we had used those end doors anyway, 35 years ago. So the past is now the future.
Yeah,
thanks.
Mr. Britton, anything else?
I have nothing else. I'll open it up one last time. Anybody have any last questions, or are we good? All right, seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Made by Mr. Silva. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Russo.